This is the fifth lesson in Chapter 0. It's all about adding and subtracting decimals. So this is a quick lesson, not a whole lot of notes, not a whole lot of practice problems. First thing we want to talk about, excuse me, is how to add and subtract decimals, what the rules are. So first, when adding and subtracting decimals, line up the decimals like buttons on a shirt. So find where your decimals are, line up your problem vertically, and those decimals should be in a row. What you want to do next, add the hidden zeros if you need them. So if you have maybe a thousandths place and a hundredths place that you're adding together, it may be helpful to use your hidden zeros. It will definitely be necessary to use hidden zeros when doing subtraction. You need to make sure they have the same place values going on in your numbers, okay? And last but not least, line up the decimal in the sum or difference. Okay, so all those decimals should stay lined up. Don't forget in your answer, your sum or your difference as well. So let's see two examples. First example, please make sure you follow along in your notes. First thing I want to do is line up my problem. I've got 15 and 791 thousandths plus 2 and 8 tenths. So I line those numbers up with the decimals in line, and I'm going to add my hidden zeros because that makes sense to me. It's helpful to me to have my place values all lined up. 1 plus 0 is 1. 9 plus 0 is 9. 7 plus 8 is 15. Carry the 1. 1 plus 5 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. And 1 plus nothing is nothing. Okay, 1 plus nothing is 1. Don't forget to bring your decimal down into your sum, right in line with my other two decimals. So my final answer is 18 and 591 thousandths. Pretty easy, right? Adding usually nobody has any trouble with. It's usually very, very easy for us. The only difference I see sometimes is sometimes you see mistakes with subtraction. We try to oversimplify the problem. So this says 92 minus 1 and 87 thousandths. So we have this decimal here. We have to line it up, but I don't see a decimal in the 92. Remember, if you have a whole number, the decimal comes at the end. Okay, so I've got 92, then my decimal point. Now I can line up underneath it 1 and 87 thousandths. Now, like I said, in addition, it's helpful to add those hidden zeros. In subtraction, it is mandatory. You have to add those hidden zeros, or else this problem is not going to work out very nicely. You probably won't get the right answer if you don't add the zeros. Okay, so now I have to go through place by place. 0 minus 7, I can't do that. I can't take 7 away from nothing. So I have to try to borrow, and I can't borrow from 0, and I can't borrow from this 0, so I have to go all the way to the 2 in the ones place, and I've got to borrow from that 2, and it becomes a 1. So now I borrowed 1 whole, and that means I get 10 tenths. And now I borrow from the tenths place, and that gets me 9 tenths. And that 1/10 that I borrowed becomes 10 hundredths. And I borrow from the hundredths place, and now I have 9 in the hundredths place, and that 1/100th that I borrowed becomes 10 thousandths. So now I can do my subtraction. 10 minus 7 is 3, 9 minus 8 is 1, 9 minus 0 is 9. I can do my decimal in the middle of the problem. That's kind of how I usually do it. You can save it to the end or do it in the middle. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 9 minus 0 is 9. So my final answer there is 90 and 913 thousandths. The example in number 2 is my favorite type of example to give to students to make sure that they know where a decimal goes in a whole number, and to also make sure that they are aware of how to correctly borrow with place value like that. So you can expect to see problems like number 2 on quizzes, on tests, and in bell ringers in my class. So I do like examples like that. Okay, that's it. Short lesson today. Go ahead and do your practice problems and check your answers in Schoology.